It is exactly 2 minutes past the hour. Welcome to our broadcast. This is KBC's Lunchtime News. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Anne Wangeshi. Just in time for the latest in the country and beyond our borders. Talk to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. And let's get right into it. I want to take you live to Afia House. That is the Ministry of Health, where I do understand our reporter, that is Sarafina Robi, is currently there, given that we have seen the medical interns have flocked to the gates of the Ministry of Health to demand to be posted in various hospitals and institutions within the country. Sarafina, good afternoon and good to see you. What more are the medical interns asking for from the Ministry of Health?
Indeed, a very good afternoon, Abdi. We are coming to you live from the Ministry of Health headquarters here in Nairobi, whereby medical interns have been camping, agitating to be given placement letters according to the 2017 CBA terms. Now, with me is one of the representatives to tell us more on what they seek in regards to this CBA. Mahitaji yenu ni yapi kuhusiana na mkataba wa mwaka 2017 na vile vile kutaka kufanya kazi?
Naitwa Blasio Bukens. Mimi ni daktari mwanagenzi ambaye niko hapa leo katika Wizara ya Afya na wenzangu. Hii wizara ya iweze kupa madaktari barua ziko na ya namba mwaka 2017 ambao uliwekwa katika mahakama ya Wizara ya Leba na Wizara ya Leba na vile Wizara ya Leba. Kwa hivyo tumeshuhudia kwamba baadhi ya madaktari ambao walihitimu mwaka jana bado hadi kufikia sasa hawajapewa barua zao na Wizara ya Afya.
Wewe umehitimu mwaka upi?
Mimi niliweza kuhitimu mwaka 2023 ambao ni mwaka jana, na nimekaa nyumbani kwa takriban miezi 10, na serikali ilikuwa imesema kwamba ingeweza kutupa barua kuanzia mwezi wa 4, na barua hizo hazikuwa zinaambatana na mkataba wa mwaka 2017. Kwa hivyo niposa chama cha madaktari kikaenda kotini na ili kuweza kujua iwapo kama madaktari wangeweza kupata haki. Lakini kwa sasa tumeshuhudia serikali ya Kenya Kwanza ikiwatelekeza madaktari, na tungependa kuwasihi kwamba waweze kuzingatia mikataba ambayo yamewekwa katika mahakama.
Sawa, asante sana. Let me also speak to another representative of the medical interns to just let us know what will happen in case your demands are not met today. What will happen in case you're not given the placement letters?
Thank you so much for that question. Cedric Ambenje, and I'm a medical officer intern. If our demands are not met, we're saying that we'll keep vigil at MOH until our needs are met. We'll keep camping here every day and night until we are posted.
And how has this affected you? When did you graduate, and for how long have you been outside without getting a placement letter?
I've been out for 9 months now, and this has really affected me. I can't proceed with my career. I cannot practice medicine. As you know, the law says that if you practice medicine without a license, you're liable to 3 million shillings fine and 5 years imprisonment. You see, that is a hefty penalty for me to afford. Therefore, I cannot practice because I'm a law-abiding citizen. So we're saying that since we've been affected in this manner, we cannot practice, we cannot seek any professional jobs in a bid to find jobs odd. Some of us are actually, there are people that I know that are gatemen, some that are my colleague, I know who are house helps, and they are doctors, for heaven's sake. So we have to be serious with the generation of doctors that we want to raise. And I always say that Kenya has a massive shortfall of doctors. We need 35,000 medical officers, but as we speak today, there are only 11,500, and more than 4,000 of them are unemployed. So we are not being serious when we say we want to advocate for universal health coverage, while our doctors are not fully occupied and our patients are not attended by professional medics.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, those are some of the representatives of the medical interns here at the Ministry of Health. CS Nakumecha. Back to you, Abdi.
Thank you, Robbie, for that particular update. The medical officers, you've just heard from them. They'll say they will stay there until the Ministry of Health officials come out and address some of their issues. Robbie will be keeping tabs on that particular story and informing us in our subsequent bulletins. Let's come back here to the studio. I want to take you to Kilifi County, where a section of Orange Democratic Movement legislators in Kilifi County is calling for the speedy release of youths who took part in the anti-tax protest. Speaking in Kilifi town, the leaders, led by the Senate Minority Whip Stewart Mazayo, said the youth have a right to demonstrate peacefully. Meanwhile, the Malindi Member of Parliament, that is Amina Mnyazi, has implored security agencies to expedite investigations of the two perpetrators who infiltrated the peaceful protests.
Tunasema kwamba askari ama nyinyi polisi ambao mnaongozwa na komanda wa polisi hapa ndani ya Kilifi County, tunawaambia wachilieni hawa watoto wetu 10 mara moja.
Tunataka vijana wetu waachiliwe ili waweze kuwa huru.
And in other news, Homa Bay County Governor Gladys Wanga says the young people are justified in their push for a better country. Speaking to KBC Channel 1, the governor, however, urged the youth to desist from violence and looting when agitating for the rights to be heard. Governor Wanga has, in the meantime, cautioned the national government against starving counties of cash in the wake of austerity measures brought about by the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024.
I know where the shoe is pinching them. We have done this with our CIDP and our annual development plans. But I think it's a unique period to look again at what should we prioritize. We, don't entertain corruption within the government so that the little resources we have can go a longer mile. We are not looking at having any cuts from the county governments because we are already grossly underfunded. We were looking at 450 billion. We got 50 billion less. We have so many functions with so little money. So no money should be reduced from county.
Still within Nyanza region, Homa Bay County government has established a comprehensive blood satellite system to efficiently manage emergencies occasioned by the high rate of maternal mortality in the county. Now, Chief Officer for Health, that is Kevin Osuri, believes that a significant number of maternal deaths are due to lack of sufficient blood during delivery. They are also equipping several sub-county hospitals to perform cesarean surgeries in order to reduce the time lost during patient transfers for minor surgeries rather.
Of the common cases of maternal deaths are usually due to hemorrhage or bleeding. That is why we have been deliberate to ensure that we have a functional blood bank with the functional officers there. It's a fully fledged unit, and you realize we always now have ready blood to transfuse whenever we have an emergency. We have also gone further to empower and facilitate as many possible sub-counties to be able to do surgeries. For example, Ndewa, that is now able to do a lot of cesarean sections. Ramola or Rachunyo East is doing cesarean sections, and many other facilities.
And in other news, Manyata Member of Parliament Gitonga Mukunji has dismissed calls by the Senate to scrap the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, claiming that it has been impactful to the development of many public projects. He urged the senators to focus on oversight of the counties against excesses that he said were rampant, causing huge losses to the taxpayer. Speaking at ACK Kiangima in his constituency, Mukunji noted that the Gen Zs have pushed the nation to a new dispensation that will sober up discussions and depoliticize the country. At the same time, he urged leaders to create more engagements with the youth in finding long-lasting solutions.
Pesa ya CDF ati iwekwe kando na itolewe. Na mimi najua wananchi wangu wa area ya Manyata wanaweza sema by witness ya kwamba hiyo pesa imeweza kusaidia sana katika uendeshaji wa maendeleo ya area yetu. Hapa tuko katika shule inaitwa Kiangema. already walikuwa wameharibikiwa na sanitation yao wakati wa floods. Saa hizi tumewajengea unit mpya ya choo ili waweze kukua na area nzuri ya kufanya kazi. Shule ile ingine iko pale kando Katunduri, utapata madarasa mzuri zimetengenezwa na CDF. Ukisonga hapa mbele kuna police station ambayo polisi already walikuwa disoriented kwa sababu wako na mahali mzuri. Saa hii tunawajengea mahali mzuri ambapo wanaweza kaa.
Still with the spirit of accountability, the Public Procurement and Regulatory Authority, PPRA, has initiated a collaborative effort with county governments and other procurement entities to identify and address challenges in the procurement process, aiming to improve compliance and service delivery. Now, this initiative follows PPRA's observation of low compliance rates across various procurement entities nationwide. Speaking to the media after a meeting with Kilifi County Governor, PPRA's chairperson Jimmy Kahindi highlighted that many national and county government staff members are unfamiliar with PPRA digital system, which is crucial to uploading details about contract advertisements and awards.
Endapo serikali imepeana kandarasi, basi kila kinachohusiana na ile kandarasi lazima kiweke wazi katika mitandao yetu ya PPRA.
Kwangu pia ni mzuri nijue, kwa sababu naweza kuinteract na hiyo portal, nijue kama maofisa wangu wameshapeana kandarasi ya kazi fulani.
On matters to do with climate change, learning institutions in arid and semi-arid areas of Laikipia County have been encouraged to adopt innovative ways of water harvesting to cushion them from unpredictable weather patterns. Now, the National Drought Management Authority CEO, Harid Adan, who spoke in Uaso Primary School in Laikipia North, where he provided 81 water tanks to school, said they had partnered with learning institutions to find solutions to the unpredictable challenges caused by the climate. Now, he said the water tanks to schools in Laikipia are meant to enhance farming activities for food production to bolster education in the devolved unit.
Also, this is one of the schools where they have used in an innovative way in terms of harvesting water, where they have a 300,000 water tank that supplies the demand of this school. Also, this is the water that the school intends to do in small scale, the issue of drip irrigation.
Ile miche ambayo tulipanda, over 97% ya hiyo miche imekomaa sasa, na in the next 3 or 4 months itakuwa watoto watakuwa wakipata matunda kwa mashule. Tulianzisha hiyo program ili kwanza kuonyesha that hata kama area hii yetu ni dry, area hii ya Laikipia North ni dry, miche ikitunzwa mzuri na ikipewa maji mzuri itastamili ukavu. Alafu ili kufunza watoto wao wenyewe agriculture mzuri ya kutunza miche.
Still within the ASAL areas, the Emergency Locust Response Project and the Food System Resilience Project have initiated countrywide livestock vaccination in Mandera County. The initiative is aimed at protecting the livelihoods of pastoral communities and enhancing resilience against frequent disease outbreaks, among them livestock. Now, veterinary officers conducted critical activities, including the pest disease vaccination, deworming and vector control measures such as spraying livestock to protect against ticks and biting flies. They also conducted community sensitization by educating the public on prevention measures against zoonotic disease.
PPR is a worldwide or a global notifiable disease, and here in Mandera our livestock are not spared by this disease. So the county government and the World Bank came up with a program known as Emergency Locust Program, which aims at how we can reduce the prevalence of this disease in our herds.
Project actually, the implementation of the vaccination activity is county-wide, and therefore We have developed 6 teams, and the 6 teams are working in 6 sub-counties of the county.
Arudisha serikali kwanza, shukrani, ametuletea sisi dawa mzuri, wamsili ya kuweka kwa mdomo na ile ya nini ya kudunga na ile vaccine ametuletea.
Now, girl child advocates drawn from Migori and Homa Bay counties have started the process of incorporating men from the community in the fight against early pregnancies and marriages in the regions. Speaking after a 2-day conference in Migori, the stakeholders said the incorporation of both genders will help in mobilization and conveying knowledge and understanding of the effects of childhood pregnancies and early marriages from close people and avoid wrong behaviors in the society.
Realize that the boys are in a better place of talking to their sisters to allow them even go back to school after getting pregnant. The girls are saying that the boys have now come out to support them.
Lakini hawa majaribu kupitia na sisi tumefanya barasa nyingi tu katika mashinani pale, tumeelimisha watoto wetu na sasa hivi wasichana wanajua rights zao.
So having the men on board will help us help the girls, the men will help talk to them, and they'll also know that they have to protect the girls so that they do not get pregnant again. And if the girls get pregnant, then they can encourage them to get back to school.
And now to a special excerpt this afternoon. It is often said people without knowledge of their history, origin and culture are like tree without roots. This phrase rings true to the Kuria community in the wake of the alarming destruction of Gintora and indigenous tree, which for decades has been considered sacred in the community. Our reporter Sarafina Robi was in the village, one of the villages in Kuria West, and brought us details of how culture and tradition played a key role in the conservation of indigenous trees, a culture that is fast fading as globalization takes roots, threatening to wipe out the Gintora tree along with the cultural practices associated with it.
Tucked at the border of Kenya and Tanzania is a hidden tale of sacred trees, traditionally known as Gitontira. These indigenous trees have for generations remained a cultural pride for the Kuria community when conducting a ceremony considered sacred known as Isubo.
These are traditions where old traditional men would go around an indigenous tree, performing certain rites to prolong their lineage and prosperity. And thereafter, that tree would never be cut down. If cut down, it would destroy their lineage and bring misfortunes. And this is because there were lots of traditional medicine that was put around the tree during the Isubo ceremony.
A walk through certain villages reveals a few left indigenous trees, the sights and sound of nature welcoming. But what is the story behind the native Gitontira tree that is currently facing extinction? We seek out to 86-year-old Andrew Maramweta.
There are seasons when it would produce fruits. Back then, our ancestors, such as Mzee Kirigiti, used to say that things said and treasured by traditional leaders stood the test of time and should be preserved.
Mwita gives us details to a T on how the Isubo ceremony was conducted at the base of a tree, down to the chants that characterized the ceremony. He reminisces with pride how the sacred rituals were conducted by elderly persons back in the day, complete with the misfortunes that were believed to befall anyone who dared to cut the tree.
When one wanted to do the Isubo ceremony around the indigenous tree, he had to do it with his first wife, even if he had 10 of them. Only had one wife called Nyagetende.
You cut any tree, you'll be recorded to go with a goat and slaughter there.
He shows us one of the sacred trees, which he says was used for the Isubo ceremony by an elderly man in the community known as Ndera Umarwa Wandera back in 1976.
One would sleep in the cattle shed facing the sky and stars all night before the day of the ceremony, as his age mates and visitors from all walks of life ate and drank. It was a big ceremony where cows would be slaughtered, young men would dance with young women as the Korea traditional songs were sung.
A few meters away, we are shown another spot where a similar tree was preserved by a man called Mwitanyabogongwe in 1972.
Areas around such trees were never cultivated. It's only recently that people cut down such trees and even farm. People are crazy. They have gone mad.
But what type of trees were considered for such traditions?
Especially trees that normally, if you cut it, you find some milk dripping. So those trees were regarded to be very solemn, and they were also used to carry out cultural ceremonies.
However, this rich history sounds foreign to 24-year-old Emmanuel Moserega Jomo.
Watu siku hizi mambo imebadilika. Watu saa hii wanafanya vitu zao, wanafanya ile kitu yeye anaelewa. So hata akikuja akate hapo mtu ukimwambia kwamba ni ya wale wazee wa kitambo anasema hapana.
Women too played a role in the preservation of the trees.
We can't fetch firewood from such cultural indigenous trees because that is where our ancestors did their traditional ceremonies.
According to 37-year-old Christine Wangengi, there are specific trees that women were not allowed to cut for firewood.
It was believed that if a lady fetched firewood from indigenous trees that had tendrils and roots around, called imerembera, they would give birth to twisted babies with tendrils. So was the same to a certain tree called Sasa, which will have you quarreling with your husband and you would know no peace.
But all these cultural efforts to preserve the indigenous trees appear to be at risk. 78-year-old Sibora Gabosi Mwita narrates how one of the sacred trees was felled.
It was felled to go dry tobacco because it had lots of branches. When cutting it down, they slaughtered a sheep and threw the intestines around it while performing certain sacred rites.
Josephat Nyakega Turuka, a teacher, attributes the destruction of indigenous trees such as Gitontira to tobacco drying among locals.
You don't tell them that they respect the trees, they will ask you many questions. And if you tell them that you will die, they want to see how they will die.
Similar sentiments were shared by the Assistant Chief, Joseph Mwitarobi, who says besides tobacco farming, gold mining is also a major contributor to felling of indigenous trees.
To support the mining pits, they have found that these trees are very strong. They withstand any pressure, the water. Once in the water, they don't rot.
Whereas the locals are in agreement, preservation of culture and indigenous trees is important. It's not lost on them that religion and modernization has contributed to the fast-fading cultural practices.
So those ones who are seriously subscribers of Christianity, they tended to associate those norms as sorcery and backward. Therefore, they don't want to value them and they don't want to copy them. But they had nothing to do with the evil way. That is how they want to preserve their life.
What has destroyed the tradition of protecting such trees is religion. I'm also a Christian, so I'm not attacking it. But they should not attack it and interfere with our traditions, just as we do not interfere with their religion.
And as the world battles environmental changes largely associated with deforestation, the threat of extinction of indigenous trees is real.
Within this locality, there won't be more than 50. Yeah, there are not many.
The forefathers of the Korea community had coined a way to preserve the indigenous trees. Whereas their methods may not fly in today's reality, it begs the question, what next for indigenous trees like the Gitontira? And most importantly, how best can communities promote afforestation of indigenous trees, preserve their culture and tradition to debunk the statement that people without history, origin and culture are like a tree without roots? Since time immemorial, cultures have been used to shape up forest. But as time goes by, some of these cultures are fading, and so are the cultural forests. The clarion call by most tribal leaders is that the government will now put up laws to protect what is considered as a cultural heritage by most of these tribes against the backdrop of climate change. Sarafina Robi for KBC Channel 1 from Kurutiange, Kuria West, Migori County.
Robbie, thank you for that eye-opening piece. 27 minutes past the hour. We need to take our first commercial break here on KBC's Lunchtime News, but I need to inform you on the other side of the break we'll be having an interview by the Kenya Association of Records Managers and Archivists who are here in studio with us. Collins Mutimba, the Secretary General, is already here. And of course, we'll be talking about digitizing records, because gone are the days we used to see those huge bundles of files being stocked in one room, but right now with the world being digitalized, what is the way going forward? Don't go too far. We have that and so much more on the other side of the break.
Unajua, token mita yako inahitaji system update. Ni rahisi na ni free. Ukipata ujumbe kutoka Kenya Power, yani SMS, weka kodi ya kwanza kureset, alafu weke kodi ya pili kuupdate, ili token mita yako iendelee kufanya kazi kama kawaida. Update token mita yako. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, before we head over to our interview in terms of digitizing records, I want to take you live to Murang'a County, where the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, that is Alice Wahome, is currently addressing a congregant that has come forth to witness the launch of the Ardhi digital platform. Let's listen into what the Cabinet Secretary is saying.
When they understand it in English, sasa ni juu yao kuenda kutafuta ile lugha watatumia, ndio washikadau wetu wenye ardhi waweze kuelewa vizuri what it is. And anybody with a title ni lazima atajaribu ajue hii kitu iko namna gani na itaenda namna gani. And I believe that we are at a very good place. I will divide, having made my the recognitions, I will divide the rest of the address, the speech that I will give into two. One, I have a formal speech, because we wanted to go on record also. And then I will respond. Part two, I will respond to the questions that were asked by my colleagues. Hawa wajube na waambianga bado mimi ni colleague wao. Na hata mambo ikiharibikia pengine watanitafutia nafasi. Ama tukimaliza mkodo, unajua kuna wengine wako na kitu hapo wanasema waondolewe wote. Mwache siasa ambaye haitatusaidia jameni. Na unajua wengine unaweza kuiba wimbo wa mwingine. Wengine wanaiba wimbo, wanaiba kwa sababu pia wangetaka kanafasi ionekane waone kama watapata bahati. Anyway, that is not an agenda. On a light note, we are working, and for the second part, I will respond to the critical questions that were asked by the members of parliament. Na ninajua kama this was an open forum, because this was targeted. If it was an open forum, wanaruona ataniletea watu maybe 1,000 mwingine, and we would want the open forums kwa sababu we want to talk with Kenyans ndio waelewe. So allow me therefore then to go into my very short speech here, alafu niingie kwa hiyo ingine ya muhimu sana, and say that it gives me great pleasure to preside over this momentous occasion for us. It's a milestone as we witness the Ardhi Sasa system going live in this county. Murang'a County becomes the second county after Nairobi where the National Land Management Information System is fully operational. Today's launch of the Ardhi Sasa system in Murang'a is a milestone in our nation's growth and development of the governance system. And here we are talking about land governance system. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of Ardhi Sasa will strengthen the security of land tenure here in Murang'a and elsewhere in the country, as it has been designed to remove human interference with land ownership records. I want to commend the Principal Secretary, General Nixon Koriu, and his staff of the Department of the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning for the painstaking long hours they spent on ensuring that the process of digitizing records was done diligently to avoid errors. And then we are also saying we are all familiar with the challenges that cropped up after Ardhi Sasa was launched in Nairobi, mainly due to the hurried manner in which the process was implemented. Of course, there was a lot of pressure from the people, from banks, ISK, from LSK, that we are not doing much that time. The lessons we learned from the case of Nairobi have helped us to improve Ardhi Sasa platform and the implementation process, this being the second station. Our objective is to ensure the platform becomes accessible in all parts of the country within the shortest possible time frame. Other counties that are next in line are Isiolo, where we should be going in the next 4 weeks, Marsabit, and Mombasa. The pre-launch steps are almost all done for Isiolo and Marsabit. Murang'a is my home county, and I'm very familiar with the challenges residents have always faced with land ownership. I want to assure you that beginning today, those problems are matters of the past. No one will be able to fraudulently tamper with your land ownership records. The Ardhi Sasa system is designed to alert you by telephone and email a landowner at any time. Being a landowner, anytime there is attempt to conduct a transaction on your on his or her.
Well, that is the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Alice Wahome, currently speaking in Murang'a County. She has just announced that Ardhi Sasa digital platform will be launched in Murang'a County, the second county to see this particular system to be up and running. That is the National Land Management Information System. Of course, Nairobi is the other county that this particular platform is operational. Now, Murang'a County has also witnessed this. Our reporter, Giverson Minor, is following on that particular report and will give us more details in our subsequent bulletins as and when we get it. Now let's come back here to the studio and I give you more stories where more than 40 women groups from the Renila community in Marsabit County have embarked on a journey to restore and celebrate their culture, which is gradually becoming extinct as a result of assimilation by other tribes. I'm being informed this story will pick up later on. Now we head over to our interview portion that I told you earlier on. It's all about digitization of the platform, our records. Given that I told you earlier on, we were seeing many of the bundles that we normally see in organizations and institutions, especially government institutions, were being stocked or bundled in one office. Now with the world becoming digitalized, what are these other avenues that these particular records can be stored? And joining us for this conversation, telling us how important digitizing records, not just in the organization, but to the country at large, how important it will be Collins Mutimba. He is the Kenya Association of Records Managers and Archivists the Secretary General. Thank you, Collins, for coming in.
Thank you so much, Abdi.
Maybe we start on that note where, Collins, how important is keeping our records, not just either digital or manually? How important is it not just to the organization, but to our country at large?
Thank you so much, Abdi, for that. Generally, records management is very fundamental for the operations of any government and in business. Just to be so precise about the question, records is key in that any organization that manages its records properly is as good as having a lifeblood in that organization. And by this I mean proper management of records enhances compliance to regulatory authorities or regulatory compliance. And here I'm looking at based with legislative frameworks that are there. Also, we have bits to do with how often or how often should we retain certain records. Still, that we'll have to talk about the bit of compliance. Majorly, I would say that records are fundamental in business operation. It helps organizations make informed strategic decisions. And this could come in the sense of planning on resources, planning on several other expenses that an organization may incur, and also it helps in good governance because it promotes transparency, accountability, and also informed decisions in any organization. So as I'll say, as a professional records and information manager manager, records are so key in ensuring that all the transactions in an organization, you're able to account for daily happenings that have happened in an organization. That's number one. Number two, through efficient records, you are able also to have accurate information which can be relied on when it comes to evidential issues within any organization. And that can help any industry be able to make very informed decisions within an organization. You know, there has been issues where we've had scenarios of disasters, risks in organizations. But we say, if you have proper records, proper information, and you have guys who have the authority to manage this information, sure, we'll be so confident that organizations' information cannot get lost. There are risks today, Abdi. You can have a scenario where you have your private information leaking to the public. What does that mean? All these things surround records management. There could be very confidential information that could get loose. There are scenarios as well where you can get information that is in the public domain without your knowledge. So what happens in that case? It calls upon proper records management, proper information governance, and this will be able to promote good governance, proper service delivery in any organization. So in a nutshell, that's what I can say, Abdi.
Okay. And how are we looking as a country when it comes to record management, especially here in the country, and compared from the public to the private sector? Compare the two sectors. Which sector is keeping more records efficiently so that it can inform what you're saying, accountability, and inform good governance at the end of the day?
When you have a comparison of the public sector and the private sector, what I can tell you, I can't pinpoint that public sector manages their records better than private sector. But I can appreciate that today we have professional records managers, both in the public sector and in the private sector. And this conforms with, there's a circular that was produced in 2010 about establishment of records management units in government. And this really emphasized on having records management units be able to be established in government institutions so that they're able to promote and protect their records. So maybe in terms of statistics, I'll say we are not badly off. In both private sector, there are processes that are there. There are things like policies, records management policies. We have procedures, and this conforms with better governance in records and information. So I'll say we are not badly off. And in terms of statistics, I can just give you statistics in numbers.
Okay.
Maybe now in the private sector we have around 20% vis-a-vis 80% of records managers based on our data that we have as professional body, registered professionals in records and archives management. So this would mean that in terms of seriousness about governance issues with records, I think we are moving in the right trajectory.
Okay.
As a country. Yeah.
Maybe in your final remarks, tell us about, given that this sector now is trying to cope with the technological advancements here in the world right now as we speak, because everything is going digital, how have you been able to cope with digitalization of the records? And secondly, how do you cope against cybersecurity dangers such as hacking?
Correct. And thanks once again, Abdi, for that. What I can say about digitization. Digitization, first of all, it has brought in lots of opportunities in terms of creation of jobs. And this, you can attest to me, we have so many software development companies which are there offering solutions that are able to have the digitized or the digital records managed effectively. In terms of the cybersecurity, I think that's about data security of the digitized records. I can attest to you that you know, we have systems that are there. We have processes that are there in policy that basically informs how well these records in the digital environment can be secured. Today we have things to do with hackers, crackers. But in appreciation of this journey to digitize records, we also have effective systems that have watertight security provisions that can allow you to be able to note which user has logged into the system. There are those trails which you can be able to spot, and you're able to tell whether information or the system has been infiltrated. And just to also give more emphasis on that, we have a bit of encryptions. And we have this information security where you're supposed also to ensure that as an individual, you have proper responsibility in relation to the digital records. So you have also to take individual responsibility to ensure that as a person, you're able to protect the infrastructure in which the digital records are managed.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is the only time we had for you, Mr. Collins Mutimba, the Secretary General of the Kenya Association of Records Managers and Archivists. Thank you for making time for us this afternoon. And there you have it, the road towards digitizing records. Hope you found this particular interview that informative, and you'll talk to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. We need to move on with our stories that are making headlines in the world of business. Now, local assemblers of electric vehicles are calling for policies that will incentivize the uptake of local content if the industry is to reduce reliance on imported components. Now, Electric Mobility Association of Kenya Vice President Moses Nderitu say local components are expensive compared to imported vehicle parts, which in turn make it overall cost of a unit expensive.
think our biggest gap right now in terms of the incentives for local assembly are very good and are there. I think the biggest gap is in the amount of local components you can get for a bus like this. So with every build, we are trying to increase the local components because e-mobility is a very new field. So you don't have a lot of local stuff. So we can actually meet that 30% threshold that is required. Production is the scale. If you're only making a few tens or a few hundreds, then your cost per unit is very high. But when you look at a bus like this in its source country, they're making them in the thousands, so the cost per unit is very low.
Elsewhere, Kingdom Bank is seeking to enhance its support to the agriculture value chain in micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in Meru County through a new branch. Kingdom Bank Managing Director, that is Anthony Mburu, says the lender is keen on catalyzing local business growth and development of the area. The Meru branch is the third outlet to be opened up by the Kingdom Bank this year.
70 factories in Meru County. We have several societies. We have one of the best dairy factories in Kenya. We have a lot of bananas, and the facilities that Kingdom Bank is bringing to Meru, I'm sure they will be able to empower this community to be able to move forward fast.
We are grateful because we've gotten the opportunity to come here and be able to participate in this great economy. An economy that has got horticulture, an economy that has got various other things like tea, coffee, and even tourism, small traders, big traders, and we're hoping that we can be able to support the financial activity that happen in.
And on the international front, the Korea Exchange has reported that the market capitalization of stocks held by foreigners in the Korean Composite Stock Price Index reached $624 billion in the first quarter of this year, accounting for 36.04% of the total market capitalization. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
The net purchase of foreign investors have surpassed 24 trillion won worth of stocks in the market this year alone, raising their holding ratio by 3.25% points. The resurgence in foreign ownership is attributed to favorable conditions in the semiconductor market. Foreign buying has been particularly concentrated on major Kospi stocks like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. The current status of the market reflects a significant shift in investment dynamics, with foreign investors showing renewed confidence in South Korea's economic stability and growth prospects, particularly in the semiconductor sector. Meanwhile, Paramount Global has agreed to merge with production firm Skydance Media. This marks the end of an era for the Redstone family, which transformed a chain of drive-in cinemas into a vast media empire. The group includes the television networks CBS, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, and MTV. According to the company, its TV channels have a global reach of over 4.3 billion subscribers across more than 180 countries. The merger will combine Paramount with its financial partner on several recent big releases. Finally, demand for valuable jewelry has increased among tourists exploring Japan due to the sustained depreciation of the Japanese yen, which has fueled a growing interest in visiting Japan among international travelers. With the prolonged high price of gold, foreign tourists are taking advantage of tax-free benefits, increasing the overall product prices by approximately 10% in the first quarter of the year. Additionally, a second-hand jewelry store has also witnessed a noticeable increase in the number of foreign customers and their purchase volumes recently.
And now finally, let's play. Multiple world and Olympic champion Faith Kipyegon stated her intentions ahead of the Paris Olympic Games when she broke her own world record in the 1500 meters in Paris, a Diamond League, meeting with a new time of 3 minutes and 49.04 seconds as the African 100-meter record holder Ferdinand Omanyala won in the FBK Games in Hengelo last night.
Faith Kipyegon returned to the scene of her 5,000 meters record-breaking feat with another surprise up her sleeve in Paris. The wild 1,500 meters record holder took charge of the race from the onset, controlling the leading pack with Australia's Jess Hull behind before Kipyegon broke away to widen the gap and win the race in a new world record of 3 minutes 49.04 seconds, taking off 0.07 off the previous record she set in Florence in June 2023.
Quick time. Laura Muir's rallied in third place. Kipyegon's going to be close. It's very close. It's there. She's got it. A new world record. And that was all in the last 200.
Australian Jessica Hull came second with the 5th fastest 1,500 meters time in history, clocking 3 minutes 50.83 seconds. Kipyegon, who is also the holder of the women's mile record, was using the Paris meet to gauge her preparedness for the Olympic Games in Paris, where she will be defending her title as one of the favorites. The wild 800 meters silver medalist Emmanuel Wanyonyi set a new personal best of 1 minute 41.58 seconds in the Paris Diamond League meeting, despite finishing the race a close second behind the winner Sejati Jamel of Algeria, who won the race in 1 minute 41.56 seconds. Wycliffe Kinyamal was fourth.
Inside, Wanyonyi trying to come back. I think Sejati gets it. 1:41.
Meanwhile, 100 meters African record holder Ferdinand Omanyala had a glorious weekend too in the FBK Games in Hengelo, where he won the 100 meters race in 10.01 seconds ahead of United States' Ronnie Baker and Canada's Andre de Grace. Omanyala was competing in his first race since he clocked the season's second best of 9.79 at the national trials for the Paris Olympics at the Nile National Stadium last month.
Great start for athletes, of course, with the Olympics around the corner. Now to Europe, where continental heavyweights Spain and France will meet in the Euro 2024 semi-finals on Tuesday, with all eyes set on a spot to a final. Now boasting a flawless record so far, La Roja made it to Munich by eliminating their host Germany in the quarterfinals as France reached the final four via a tense penalty shootout with Portugal.
Lost out to Austria for the top spot in the Group D, France were uninspired in their last 16 win over Belgium before edging out Portugal in the quarterfinal.
Before we conclude our broadcast, we had another excerpt for you this afternoon where more than 40 women groups from the Renila community in Marsabit County have embarked on a journey to restore and celebrate their culture, which is gradually becoming extinct as a result of assimilation by other tribes. As John Kahiro reports, the women are set to host the first of its kind Renila cultural event dubbed Renila Food and Cultural Festival at Logo Logo in Laikipia County in August 2024. As an effort aimed at preserving the community's culture.
The Rendile, a semi-nomadic pastoralist community domiciled in northern Kenya. The tribe has faced a significant cultural erosion over the years. This has been attributed to intermarriages, modernization, and the influence of neighboring tribes. It is against this background that local women have come together to redeem what seems to have been lost over the years, their culture. The women, led by Pastoralist People's Initiative Executive Director Margaret Super, recognizing the urgent need to preserve their unique identity, have joined efforts to initiate various cultural revival projects.
The 9 clans, kutakuwa na 9 houses representing the 9 clans, and katika hizo 9 houses kutakuwa na vitu zile tulikuwa tunatumia kitambo za utamaduni wetu.
Na sisi kama Pastoralist People's Initiative tumechukua lead ili kuona ya kwamba tumehifadhi mila na lugha na tuendeleze kila mwaka.
According to them, Renila Food and Cultural Festival, set to take place in August this year, will go a long way in bridging the cultural gaps in the community.
Tunataka kabisa tuweze kusherekea utamaduni wetu sisi kama Warendile, haswa juu ya vyakula, mafasi na vile tunapaswa kuishi kama Warendile na hata kuweka lugha yetu.
After the festival, the community intends to start a cultural school at a 50-acre piece of land donated by elders, where young people will be having an opportunity to learn their language and traditions.
Tutakuwa pia na shule ambayo itakuwa ikifunza watu mambo ya Kirendile, watu wajifunze na hata watoto na watoto wa watoto wetu wapate kujifunza kupitia shule hiyo.
The groups have outlined a comprehensive plan that includes teaching traditional Rendile songs, dances and crafts to younger generation.
Tumeanzisha cultural festival ya Warendile na tunataka iwe ikiendelea kila mwaka na watu pia waweze kurudi na kujifunza zaidi lugha yao, kwa sababu tunaona ya kwamba lugha ya Rendile imeweza kushukuliwa ama imeweza kupotea kwa sababu watu wameanza kuzungumza Kisamburu zaidi.
The initiative has garnered support from various stakeholders in the community.
Sisi vijana tumepoteza lugha watoto wetu. Nafikiri watakuwa kwa mahali pabaya kama hatutaweza rejuvenate na kufunza hawa lugha ya Kirendile.
Taki utamaduni wetu ipotee na lugha yetu ya Rendile ipotee. Maana watu wengi sasa wanasema lugha ya Rendile inapotea.
According to a 2019 census, there are less than 100,000 Rendiles who are only found in Laisamis in Marsabit County. John Kahiro, Legends Edition.
Kahiro, thank you for that particular piece, and that concludes our broadcast this afternoon. It is exactly 2 p.m. Join us in our subsequent bulletins at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Anne Wangeshi. Good afternoon for now, and enjoy the rest of your viewing.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Well, go on, my brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to share